Hi, Ron, West Bremer Radio. Let's cross down live to a history book near you. The man that brings us the history of Ipswich. This is a good one because we're going to go out after this with our metal detector and try to find some, because I love that show on television, Goldrush, and let's talk to the Ipswich Goldrush. And, of course, this is a place full of caves and things and thingos, and let's talk to the man that can help us, Harold the H. Cock-a-doodle-doo, Harold Peacock, the man they couldn't shoot or electrocute.
Okay.
How you going, Harold?
Fantastic. Look, I survived being, well, not shot at in Victoria, so I'm pleased to be back here in Queensland in Ipswich. I just really look forward to telling you this gold rush story.
Well, I always thought there was a lot of gold in Ipswich, wasn't it? That's how it sort of started, was it? Or coal?
Well, there certainly used to be, although coal is kind of a different colour, but there absolutely was a gold rush. And, in fact, the lure of gold in the 1850s has actually built Australia, and Ipswich was no different, Danny.
Yeah.
You see, the gold rush has not only brought great wealth, but also brought some really interesting people. They all had awesome stories to tell. Yeah, like for example, I'll tell you about a couple of them.
Yeah.
Like there was Thomas Weldon of North Ipswich. He arrived in Moreton Bay in 1857 and actually walked. He walked from Brisbane to Ipswich. Now, he made the clay bricks that you see in St Paul's Anglican Church today. He's the one.
Really?
And in 1858, he joined the Port Curtis Gold Rush up near Rockhampton. Now, its name is infamous in the history of Australian gold rushes because it was a so-called duffer rush. You see, the old fields around Bathurst, Bendigo and Ballarat, they were no longer the paradises that they started, and so thousands of men rushed to Port Curtis, where they found nothing and starved. Now, Weldon, of course, he came back to Ipswich. Then there was Patrick Cleary. He was one of Ipswich's old-time butchers. But in 1867, Cleary joined the famous Gympie Gold Rush. And that's when more than half the population of Ipswich rushed off to the diggings. Now, it would have been a ghost town. So Cleary, but he didn't strike it rich, but he'd already made his mark in Ipswich history. You see, he was a member of the Ipswich cricket team that in 1864 famously disposed of the Brisbane United 11 for a total of 4 runs. Now, look, there was an Ipswich navvy named Joe Meads. He was an underarm bowler, and he took 4 wickets for no runs. And 2 of Brisbane's 4 runs were actually leg byes. And then another gold rush man was George Meredith of Goodna. In 1867, he also joined the Gympie Gold Rush, but luck did not favour him because he was only one width of a tree separated him from unearthing a nugget of gold worth £300 or around $400,000 in today's money.
Wow.
That's how far away he was from digging it up. But the history that Meredith witnessed apart from that is absolutely remarkable. For example, Meredith, he straddled New South Wales, Queensland, that history, because his first election day vote in Ipswich was for a member of the New South Wales Parliament, because Queensland didn't exist at that stage. He cast his vote in a little room out the back of Criven Foots. That's where the electoral room was. His next vote was for the first Parliament of Queensland in 1860. Ipswich's voting booth that day was on the corner of South Street and Market Lane. So that corner is actually a really significant place in the history of Ipswich and Queensland. Now, in 1864, Meredith was there for the turning of the first sod of Queensland's first railway. Of course, it started in Ipswich. In 1867, Meredith made the coffin and participated in Ipswich's first ever funeral cortege, which marched to the cemetery at Sandy Gallop. So look, plenty of Ipswich people rushed to gold discoveries across the colonies, but Ipswich had a gold rush of its own, which is pretty much forgotten about today, Danny. And it came at the best possible time for everyone.
When?
You see, it was in 1932. It was at the height of the Great Depression. And it was reported that in a 2-month period, gold valued at £5,000 was unearthed at Ipswich. That's over $2 million worth today.
Wonder well.
Yeah, look, one Ipswich, well, yeah, I'll tell you in a moment. It's a secret, but one Ipswich gold dealer alone was reporting over $40,000 of gold per week.
Wow.
Another accounted for 80 gold sovereigns per day.
Wow.
You see, the Depression was driving families to despair, and so broken bangles, smashed earrings, old watches and trinkets that had laid in corners and odd corners for years actually produced Ipswich's gold rush. So where the gold come from? Gold came from your bottom drawer. Even wedding rings lost their sentimental value on a trip back to the smelters. Now, the fact is that the value of gold rocketed well above the face value of even the gold sovereigns that it made. And with the value of the sovereign, you know, it soared to over 4 times face value at one stage in Ipswich. So even collectors of old coins, they were attracted to the market. Sovereigns that left the mint at the time of George III found company with French Napoleons. Those sovereigns. The South African Kruger was even being unearthed in surprising quantities right here in Ipswich. Occasionally, a spade guinea from the 18th century reached an Ipswich dealer. The biggest coin deal in Ipswich concerned 140 sovereigns, which brought the owner a handsome 50% profit.
Wow.
Now, Danny, gold prices soared, but within weeks, well, it's inevitable to happen, and they crashed. And the Ipswich gold rush of 1932 was over. And until I'm reminding you about it now, that was largely lost in time.
You turn the clock back all the time. You make people famous who were famous once. You're just good at your job. You're a great researcher. What a Tory. Not a Tory. How's a storyteller? You're a good storyteller as well. How do we read about this story and other stories?
Well, there's about 250 Ipswich stories alone, short stories, on my website, historyouthere.com. But you can also see History Out There on Instagram, on X, which is Twitter, and YouTube, all the socials, but historyouthere.com. I've got loads of stories there for you, Danny, and it's really interesting in Ipswich, just the stories unearthed that people just didn't know about.
Just quickly, did you find anything unique with your metal detector down in Victoria?
Yeah, look, I had a quick look at an old family house site and found about 20 pennies and things like that there. Nothing really old. The oldest was 1916. Still cracked the century, of course, but that was at a family house site. But look, I'll be searching up here shortly too, so hopefully I've got some good news for you.
I love to know what you found. All right, mate. That was historyouthere.com. Harold the H. Peacock. He's exclusive. Well, he's not really. He's on 4WK. What days, Damien?
On Tuesday mornings.
Tuesday mornings. You're right here. He's got it. He's interesting. He's part of the team, of the West Bremer radio team at 822.